The Formula One World Championship is the crowning achievement for any single-seater driver across the world. It's the culmination of a year's hard work by the driver and their team, and a celebration that lives long in the memories for anyone who is able to come out on top. But for these drivers, they had it in their hands, and due to mistakes and misfortunes, they blew their chance. "1983 looked to be a fantastic year for the nation of France. A Frenchman in a French car was on course to win the World Championship. Alain Prost in his turbocharged Renault led Nelson Piquet by 14 points heading into the final 4 races of the season. Prost had already won 4 times this season and had finished every race so far, a remarkable achievement in an era of unreliability, and especially since Renault retired a ridiculous 16 times in 1982. But in the Dutch Grand Prix, whilst fighting for the lead, Prost lost control of his car and slammed Piquet into the tyre barrier, eventually suffering from that collision himself and later running his car into the wall. Suddenly, that made the Ferrari of fellow Frenchman René Arnoux to become his closest challenger. Then at Monza, the turbocharger of the Renault would fail on Alain Prost for the first time this year and a second successive retirement. A 1-2 for Piquet and Arnoux meant that the gap was now down to 2. Alain Prost would finish behind Nelson Piquet at Brands Hatch in second place to set up a grand finale at Kyalami in South Africa, 2 points ahead of Nelson Piquet. With Alain Prost running third place on lap 35, the Frenchman came in for a routine pit stop, only to discover something terrible had happened.
He's getting out! Alain Prost gets out of the car! Alain Prost is out of the car. The dumbfounded mechanics don't know whether to finish the refueling and to finish the tyres, and now Alain Prost's only hope to finish today world champion is if Nelson Piquet finishes 6th or doesn't finish in the points.
Heading into the final 3 races of the 1974 season, Ferrari's Clay Regazzoni held a 9-point lead over the Brazilian Emerson Fittipaldi, entering the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in a season where it was only 9 points for a win. At the age of 35, Clay was looking to become the first Swiss driver to be crowned Formula One champion. He has to fight against the already crowned Formula One champion Fittipaldi from 2 years before in his McLaren, and future world champions in Jogi Scheckter in his Tyrrell and teammate Niki Lauda. The first setback, in his home race for Ferrari, Regazzoni was behind his teammate in a Ferrari 1-2. Then, Lauda was forced to retire with a water leak, which put the Swiss driver in the lead. But with 12 laps to go, the engine would fail on Regazzoni, putting him out of the race, with Fittipaldi and Scheckter both finishing on the podium. In Canada, Regazzoni would finish in second place, only behind his rival Fittipaldi. At the final race in Watkins Glen, all Clay Regazzoni had to do was finish ahead of Fittipaldi. Despite the help from his teammate Niki Lauda in holding up Fittipaldi and Scheckter, the Ferrari continued to struggle for Regazzoni. He pitted, but to no avail. Fittipaldi finished 4th and Regazzoni 11th. Regazzoni lost the title by 3 points and wouldn't come close to a title ever again. Halfway through the 1981 season, and Carlos Reutemann has a comfortable 17-point lead ahead of Nelson Piquet in second, a gap worth 2 race wins. The Williams Ford was by far the strongest car on the field, but Nelson Piquet was pushing his Brabham to the limit. That 2 race win gap was closed in the blink of an eye. In the next 3 races, Reutemann retired twice and finished 5th, whilst Piquet was on the podium in all 3 races. After finishing 3rd in Italy, Reutemann entered the final 2 races with a 3-point lead. In a rain-soaked Canadian Grand Prix, after starting in second place, a minor collision with teammate Alan Jones saw the Argentinian drop down the order. Not only that, but he was on the wrong tyres. In the end, a 10th place finish coupled with a 5th from Piquet saw the gap close to 1 point heading into the final race. The final race, in Las Vegas no less. Reutemann once again qualified on the front row. He could not afford to not finish in the points again. As the lights go out, A poor start. Carlos is 4th heading into the first corner and 5th by the end of the lap. On lap 17, both Reutemann and Piquet were outside the points. Reutemann was winning the championship, but then Piquet passed the laboured Argentinian, and as Piquet gained positions, Reutemann lost them. In the end, Reutemann finished a lap down in 8th place. Piquet had picked up the 2 points needed to snatch the title away. Australian driver Mark Webber is having the time of his life. He's qualified on pole position 5 times and picked up 4 victories so far in his frighteningly quick Red Bull. He now leads the 2010 Drivers' Championship by 14 points, having just finished 2nd in Japan, with 3 races to go. Webber qualified on the front row behind his teammate and close challenger Sebastian Vettel. Heavy rain fell before the start of the race, which meant that if Webber was to win this championship, he'd have to get a solid result in the wet. But on lap 18, with Webber running in 2nd place, heading into turn 12, Webber ran wide and lost control of his car.
It's on that opening lap, and Webber's wide.
Oh, Webber's spinning round. Webber could have a crash, and Webber has gone crashing into the wall. And Webber could collect someone else. He has done. The championship leader is out of the race.
A 2nd place in Brazil kept him in contention, but in a dramatic season finale in Abu Dhabi, Webber frustratingly finished in 8th place, missing out on the title by 14 points, 1 podium away from the championship. Who knows what would have happened if he had finished in the podium in Korea. It's 1986, and Nigel Mansell is looking to become the first British driver to win the championship in a decade, since James Hunt did so in 1976. After winning the Portuguese Grand Prix, Mansell held a 10-point lead over the Frenchman Alain Prost with 2 races to go, needing 1 more win to secure the title. A 5th place in Mexico, coupled with a 2nd place finish from Alain Prost, meant that going into the final race at the Adelaide Street Circuit, Mansell needed 3rd or higher for the title. Despite qualifying on pole position, Mansell fell behind Senna, Piquet and Keke Rosberg in the first lap, but he never quit. Keeping pace with the leaders, Mansell comfortably raced inside the podium positions for the majority of the race. On lap 63 of 82, Mansell sat in 3rd place behind Alain Prost and teammate Nelson Piquet, with Prost only in 2nd place. Nigel Mansell was set to win his first ever Formula 1 championship. And on the back straight, Mansell orchestrated a routine pass on the back marker. And then...
And look at that! Out then, and colossally, that's Mansell! That is Nigel Mansell!
At 180 miles per hour, the left rear tyre of the Williams exploded, putting Mansell out of the race. Fearing the same would happen to his teammate, Nelson Piquet was called into the pits from the lead, handing Prost the win and a 2nd successive championship to the McLaren driver at the expense of Mansell. The greatest rookie season ever was soon to be coronated with a title. Lewis Hamilton led the championship ahead of 2-time world champion and teammate Fernando Alonso by a whopping 12 points with 2 races left in the calendar. Having just won the Japanese Grand Prix in torrential rain, rain would once again affect the next race in China, after the country was slightly affected by a nearby typhoon. Hamilton qualified on pole position again, as he had done on 5 previous occasions. 30 laps into the race and Hamilton had a comfortable lead and a quiet race, but he was losing grip on his tyres. Having just run wide and allowing Raikkonen to pass, Hamilton was still in championship clinching position. Coming in for a routine stop, Lewis inexplicably ran wide, entering the pit lane, and into the gravel trap he went.
He goes straight on into the gravel trap. Can he keep the wheels spinning? Can he get some momentum going? No, he can't. It's all going to get away from him.
Trying to keep the car running, Hamilton desperately tried to recover the situation, but it was all in vain. With the chance to clinch the championship gone, Hamilton let his rivals Alonso and Raikkonen in with another shout. Just 2 weeks later in Interlagos, Lewis Hamilton looked to finish the deal and become the first ever rookie to win the championship, but then disaster struck. Just a few laps into the race, a gearbox problem on the McLaren saw Lewis stuck in neutral, struggling to find the gears. It would take 30 seconds for him to finally reset the car.
Something's wrong with his McLaren car!
By that time, he was already in 18th place, needing at least 5th for the title. By the end of the race, Hamilton only managed a 7th place finish, good enough for 2 points. But with Kimi Raikkonen winning the race, the Finn snatched the title away from Hamilton's hand by 1 point.